Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? $1 or something. $1 or something. Why you be all on
Recording live in the Conscious Creative Media Studios from somewhere in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, you are listening to the world's greatest photography podcast with your host, Bill Howard.
Thank you once again, Scott, and you are listening to the world's greatest photography podcast, and I am the host, Bill Howard. We are here today with social media photography guru, especially on the sports side, Zamani Feelings. He's also pretty good on portraits and weddings and things like that, but that's not what we're here for today. Zamani Feelings, you can find him on Twitter at Zam919, on Instagram at Zamani Feelings Photography, and of course, you can check out his website at zamanifeelings.net. And I believe sometime soon, Zamani's going to have a YouTube channel in which he does offer some tutorials in his photography. And Zamani, I think let's talk a little bit about positioning, especially for football, considering we're in football season.
Okay.
Where do you go? Do you have a shot list in your mind before the game?
Sometimes. It's always between, I have an idea, like sometimes of who I want to capture or some things I want to try, but it's always like a mixture of that and just kind of improvising and using my intuition and kind of going with the flow of what's happening and where I'm positioned at. I don't always get to be where I want to be because of some of the restrictions, particularly at like college and in the NFL games. Yeah, generally I will go into the game knowing that there's certain things that I might want to capture, but I don't know how I'm going to necessarily do it. With positioning, it's pretty much always the same. It's like I'll start off trying to get the quarterback, whoever gets the ball first with football. So I'll be trying to get shots of the quarterback in the backfield. So if they're lined up at the 20 or something like that, I'll be in the backfield. I'm trying to just get, the first pass or that sort of thing, or the first drop back. And then from there, I kind of just go with the flow. I'm usually either shooting in the backfield or in the end zone, in the corner in the end zones, trying to get the action coming towards me. Or if I'm covering the defense for Temple, let's say, then I'll be behind the other team's offense covering the defense. I don't really like to shoot from the sidelines as much, only because of the restrictions and there's people on the sidelines that can get in your way. You can get great shots from the sidelines, but it's just because of the sideline restrictions and because there's so many people sometimes on the sidelines that can interfere with your photographs. I prefer to get to where I'm in the end zone. But there's not always the ability to do that. If the team is 80 yards away from you, you're going to have to move up and try to capture it from the sidelines. But that's like my least favorite place to be. But I've gotten some great shots from those angles too when my field of view wasn't blocked. But it depends on what I'm capturing though. But for the most part, I'm either shooting in the backfield, which can get you good shots of the quarterback dropping back, or the handoffs, or the running backs running towards you, or a sack. There's a lot of things you can kind of capture from that vantage point. And then my other second favorite position is in the end zone and just capturing whatever's coming towards me, or the defense who's trying to defend against the offense that I'm behind.
And when I started in sports photography, it wasn't until very recently that I had a lens that was longer than a 70 to 200. Mm-hmm. So I lived on the sidelines. And especially on the first play, if it's, just a short run back from the kickoff or it's gone in the end zone,
right,
I'll try to get about 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. That gets me out of the way of the line judges and the people holding the down markers.
Right.
But I'll try to get the handoff from the quarterback to the running back and maybe get lucky and have a sweep come my way.
Right. Those are always
and
the
then
best.
And then if a team is stuck deep, let's say, they're on the 2 or 3 yard line with 95 yards ahead of them. Mm-hmm. I'll get in the back of the end zone looking for the safety. The defense really wants to get to that quarterback in those situations. So
Yeah.
I try to catch that.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I'll whenever the offense is backed up that far, I'll get behind them, and that's when I really shoot low and get like down on the ground, because you can kind of get some dramatic pictures with them, because you can see the whole stadium behind them and everything, and even the handoffs sometimes look nice. So that's one of the times when they're backed up like that, I'll run right to the middle of the end zone, which I don't generally shoot from the middle of the end zone. I usually shoot from the corners of the end zone, but when they're backed up like that, I'll shoot from the middle of the end zone.
In the same way, when they're coming to the goal line about to score, I would imagine you kind of work the same route as you would on the defensive side.
Yes, more so, but I'll stay more so in the corners. It depends. There's a lot of times, it depends. If they're going to pass, they're usually generally passing to the outside, so it's better to be in the corners. If they're going to try to run a player up the middle, then obviously you want to be in the middle of the field. I can't say I've gotten a ton of those, though. I always kind of, Temple was kind of have been a pass-heavy team in the last couple of years, so a lot of times when they're back there at the goal line, sometimes they'll throw the ball high, throw it up towards the corner, and let one of their tall receivers go up and get it. So I've stayed over there. And it's always like, you're always kind of trying to gamble to see which one you think they'll do. And then usually I just stay over in the corners. But so that's a good point too about the when the offense gets backed up in there, near the goal.
Now, we were talking in the first segment, you recently got the Nikon Z6 mirrorless camera, and you got it primarily for not necessarily position on the field, but your position. You want to get that low shot, and football's a little dangerous. You don't want to get stuck in the prone position and have the plays come at you. So he won't. Well, I'll let you explain it. You were looking for a camera that would do certain things, and why did you get the Z6 for that type of shot?
I had been looking for a camera that would give me I like the mirrorless features, and particularly the low angle and high angle. And I experimented with some different things. It's dangerous laying on the ground there. It's actually kind of comfortable. I don't know if anybody's ever tried it though. If you get down there, sometimes you don't want to get up unless the tar is really hot. But I like the low angle. The low angle shots give you a really dramatic look. It pushes the players up in the sky, so it gives you a different kind of background. It makes the players look more dramatic looking, and you can actually do it on a video game. If you play around with your angles, you can see it on like the instant replays and sort of thing. So anyway, I had gotten really become a fan of that look. But laying on the ground on the fields can be really dangerous. There's been some times where the referees asked me to get up because they were concerned with my safety and that sort of thing. And it's not always as advantageous when you're doing it if you're using a DSLR, because when you're laying down, it can cause a strain on your neck too. That's another thing too. But anyway, so I got it because I wanted to shoot. To be able to shoot low angle stuff really easily. I actually got it more for, I don't know if I will use it for the actual fast action stuff yet, but when I'm doing like the warm ups, when the guys are coming out on the field, when I'm in the tunnel and I can just put it down on the ground and shoot with the LCD, or I can hold it over their heads. When I'm doing like the kind of portraits on at practice and that sort of thing. I use like a wide angle lens, and so it's mainly just been a thing of convenience for me to capture a lot of things. And I probably will use it for some action stuff. You just have to. The only issue with it is sometimes if you're in a hard light, it's difficult to see the LCD screen in order to track your action. But this year is going to be the year that I'm going to experiment with a lot just to see how it works. But it's mainly for me. It's been to use for high and low angle work, and to being able to get things like really quickly. Like I'll give you an example. One of the graphic designers, during the game, right before the game starts, the guys always go and they get in a circle, the defense, and they put their hands up together, all together in a like a stance or whatever. And he's been like asking me, can you get that shot like up high? And I've always been telling him like, okay, I can't, but I'll try, but I can't see what I'm getting when I'm shooting up there. So this year I'll be able to see exactly what I'm getting when I go to do that photo. So
and perspective means a lot.
Right.
You're exactly right. And for instance, this last season, my editor, my marketing guy would tell me the same thing. He wants to make sure like we get everybody's hands at the top of the huddle pre-game and during basketball, where they're holding their hands up together. And I've been shooting a 7200 at like 200 millimeters and just getting the hands very tight.
Right.
And then during the ACC basketball tournament this year, I put a 15 to 30 mil on my camera body, and I laid down on the ground and went underneath them and shot straight up.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to try.
Like you said, that's when you spray and pray. You just shoot and hope something comes out. So I wiggled the camera around a little bit so it would find focal points on people's faces, and hoping I could pull one out. But yeah, it gives a completely different.
Completely. Yeah.
Well, it's a perspective. It changes things. It gives you more dramatic effect, and the same thing works with action photos as well when they're coming in the end zone. If you've got a low angle or a high angle, it would, I try to get low like in baseball on when I've got somebody that's fast on first base. I'll get low to try to get that slide back into first when the pitcher, throws to keep him on.
Right.
So,
and that's the other thing too. It's not just for football too, because I want to use it for things like that, for like for like you just mentioned with baseball. Now I can put the LCD screen on the ground and just lock it down to first base, and then I can wait for him to come running, and if I use a longer lens, and then, I don't have to worry about anybody telling me to get up because I'm laying out on the baseball field, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of sports I want to use it for. Swimming, I can kind of get a little bit of lower angle. There's a few things.
Even like a low corner angle in a soccer goal.
Right.
Shooting at an angle, and if you catch the goalie going for a high block,
right,
I can see that being a great composition.
Yeah. So there's several things I want to use it for, and it makes I believe mirrorless cameras make for great street photography cameras too, because with street photography it's kind of spur of the moment, and a lot of times people they'll be doing street photography and they'll be shooting out there, and then they realize they see something and they go to grab it and they realize their exposure was off or that kind of thing. But it can also, shooting low and high can work for those things too. But so I think it'll be great for me doing the editorial type of journalistic type of stuff, the storytelling work. So I'm looking forward to experimenting with it. I think especially if you use a wide angle lens with it. So I rented a 20 millimeter 1.4 that should be coming in a day or so, and our first game is Saturday, so I'm going to test it out and see what I come up with.
You are listening to the world's greatest photography podcast with your host, Bill Howard.
Again, we're with Zamani Feelings, and you can catch him on Twitter at Zam919, on Instagram at Zamani Feelings Photography, or go to his website at ZamaniFeelings.net. And lastly here, Zamani, we talked about catching the intensity in the players' faces.
Right.
And that can be difficult when you're dealing with, say, baseball or football, where you have either a hat or a helmet on. In your post-processing, you mainly use Photoshop for your sports photography.
Yeah.
What do you do to bring out the facial features in a player that's got a helmet that's 30 yards from you?
Well, the main thing, every scenario is different. Every time we shoot football, it's different type of lighting, or every game I shoot in and that sort of thing. Generally, I try to bring the contrast down. That does two things. One, it brings more details into the image. And number two, it also will bring out the faces a little bit more. It depends on what kind of lighting. If it's really heavy sunlit, like heavily front lit and high in the sky, is going to make harsher shadows than it would if it was an overcast day or if it was like a sunset day where the sun is setting. But generally, I usually bring the contrast down. And I said that brings in the details. It also opens up the faces a bit, and then I'll raise the shadows up until it brings the eyes and the face out, and then generally that look is not going to be very pleasing because it's going to look very flat and a little strange, and then so I use the dehaze to kind of bring the fullness back in without removing the detail and the details, removing the details that I had initially. So it's a combination of those things, and you got to kind of play around with it. It's no one, like, I don't have a preset for it because it depends on the photo and the lighting. Sometimes there's no, depending on the type of lighting, I don't really need to do much to it to bring those things out. And it's something like with the post-processing, it's something that you kind of learn over time, and you get better with it, and you experiment, and you kind of figure out. So there's some photos that I've had for 3 or 4 years ago that I go back and look at them now, and I'll be like, oh, what was I doing with the editing? And that, I could have made this look so much better, that sort of thing. But yeah, raising the shadows to the point where it doesn't look unnatural can help to bring out a lot of details, and particularly the faces, which is real important in kind of capturing emotion in pictures. So I think that was something that just carried over from me from my portrait photography, which was the importance of the eyes and trying to connect people to the personality of the subject and the emotion of the subject.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on board today with us, Zamani, and I think that you've given us a lot of great information. If you want to see and talk with Zamani, if you check out Sports Photography Group or All Sports Action Photography Groups on Facebook, he's very active there. I think you post, once an hour, maybe?
Yeah, they only let us do once every 24 hours, but I will do a post, at least one post a day. I don't think I'd probably say I post almost every day there, at least a photo almost every day there, or at least some kind of information or sharing my thoughts or opinions or feelings or something with sports photography. All Sports Action Photography in particular has been a really, 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 really great group for me in my development. I joined there when I first started doing sports photography, and it's really helped me a lot, learning a lot. It saved me a lot of money on not purchasing things that I thought I needed that didn't. It's helped me make some of my better buys, but more than anything, it's really helped me enhance my sports photography and just have a place to share the passion of sports photography with other people who are really into it too.
Well, Zamani definitely will help anyone out there. So check him out on the All Sports Action Photography or the Sports Photography Groups on Facebook, or again on Twitter at Zam919 or Instagram at Zamani Feelings Photography. And again, Zamani, thank you for coming on the world's greatest photography podcast today.
That was great. I appreciate it.
And yes, sir. And well, until next time.
Okay.
We'll see you later.
Bye-bye.
Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Get you $1 or something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Get you $1 or something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Get you $1 or something. Why you be all on my line about nothing? Why won't you go get you $1 or something? Get you $1 or something.